Joining us on the broadcast this evening is my colleague Aditya. Aditya, good evening. You have accessed this audit report, which actually talks about certain lapses, certain flaws that were red flagged in time, but it seems nothing really was done.
Well, exactly. I mean, and interestingly, you must have seen that even the Union Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla wrote a letter, a circular to all the chief secretaries of all the states, in which he actually mentioned a need of a routine audit by a specialized agency to ensure that nothing like such happens again. But that being said, the audit report, as accessed by Times now, has revealed that the authorities were informed well in advance about certain irregularities or issues, better described as flaws, 24 in number, with the cable that was actually deployed for that particular ropeway. But that being said, when Times Network actually tried to contact the director of Jharkhand State Tourism Department, he told us, he informed us that a committee has been formed as per the directions of the High Court, and they have included some subject matter experts to look into the entire matter, into the entire episode, every nuance involved. But that being said, he did not comment on the audit report, and he neither confirmed nor contradicted this assertion.
Right. Important update you are giving to us, Aditya. Thank you very much for joining us with all of those details. So, Bidder now has accessed this audit report that makes it very, very clear that an audit was conducted about 3 weeks ago, and maybe if some action was taken, if the findings were taken seriously, then maybe what happened on Sunday was avoidable. I have a question now, viewers. Why do audits require a tragedy trigger? Because after this incident also, Centre has written to the states asking that all the ropeway projects that are there in various states should be audited. Now, in the Deoghar Ropeway tragedy, 3 people lost their lives. Centre has asked states to conduct audit of ropeway projects. Remember, the Gurugram building ceiling collapse, where 1 person died after ceiling of a room on one of the floors of a building collapse. The incident took place in February. After this incident, an audit was ordered of all the buildings to check the quality of materials used and also the strength of the buildings. Recently, in Bengaluru, where a father-daughter duo lost their lives due to a transformer blast and the way it caught fire, in this incident, the government ordered an audit of transformers in the city. So many incidents have taken place in the last few years and all point towards the same trend. What happens after audits are ordered? Is there anyone doing some kind of a follow-up to ensure that the same tragedy does not happen again? Because what happened in Deogarh is giving us a sense that the audits are ordered, reports are made, but nothing really happens after that. Saket is joining us on the phone line as well, my colleague who's been tracking the story very, very closely. Saket, now we are being told that an audit in fact was conducted about 3 weeks ago, लेकिन उसके बाद भी प्रशासन ने उसके फाइंडिंग्स पर बिल्कुल भी ध्यान नहीं दिया था।
देखिए, बिल्कुल जिस तरह से ऑडिट रिपोर्ट आई थी और मार्च में ही ये रिपोर्ट आई थी, जैसा कि जानकारी दिया जा रहा था, और उसके बाद भी अगर इस पर ध्यान नहीं दिया गया तो ये कहीं ना कहीं एक कह सकते हैं आपराधिक गलती है ये, जिसका कोई बिना सजा के कोई इसका उपाय नहीं है। क्योंकि आप समझिए कि जब रिपोर्ट में ये बता दिया गया कि इस पर कई तरह की परेशानियां हैं, चाहे वो केबल के मेंटेनेंस की बात हो, जो केबिन्स चल रहे थे उसके मेंटेनेंस की बात हो, ये तमाम ऐसे सवाल थे जो इस रिपोर्ट में बताया गया। बावजूद इसके उस पर ध्यान न देकर लगातार जो ये रोपवे है उसे चलाया गया, और खास करके आप समझिए जब नवरात्र या इस तरह का जब भी फेस्टिवल होता है तो वहाँ सबसे ज्यादा भीड़ होती है। और उस भीड़ के दौरान जो एक और सबसे बड़ी खामी दिखी वो ये कि ज्यादा लोगों की भीड़ को देखते हुए जो मैनेजमेंट है उसने वहाँ उस केबल पर ज्यादा जो कार है, केबल कार, उसको चला दिया। 24 कैपेसिटी है, 24 केबल कार ही आप उस पर चला सकते थे, लेकिन उस दिन 27 केबल कार उस पर चलाया गया। और समझिए उसका जो अतिरिक्त भार है वो उस वायर पे पड़ा जो केबल है, और इस वजह से ये पूरा हादसा हुआ। तो ये एक कह सकते हैं आपराधिक गलती है, और इस पर निश्चित तौर पर एक फाइंडिंग किनकी इसमें गलती है इसको देखते हुए जल्द से जल्द इस पर कार्रवाई जरूरी है।
Thank you very much, Saket, for the moment, for joining us with all of those details. We'll, of course, be coming back to you for more on this big story. And joining us on the broadcast this evening are my guests to discuss this particular issue. We have Lokesh Jindal, leader of the Congress Party, Tuhin Sinha, leader of the BJP, spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party, joining us. We have with us Dilip Cherian, founder, Perfect Relations with us, and also Nirmal Kaur, former DGP, Jharkhand. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now. Dilip Cherian, I want to begin the discussion with you. Why do audits require a tragedy trigger? And what happens after the audits are ordered?
The problem with audit reports is that no one waits to follow up on the findings. If you look at what's happened in all three of the episodes that you described, audits are happening, but action taken report is not something that is actually placed before the relevant board. So in a private corporate company, for example, when an audit makes the slightest of remarks, the entire board gets absolutely exercised over the matter, and every aspect has to be dealt with before we can proceed with matters, literally. So what happens is that this is the way audits need to be taken seriously. This is not a political issue. It's a matter of simple government procedure. It is something which needs to be followed meticulously because human lives are at stake in this case. And whether it's a matter of running extra cars on the ropeway or whether you're putting extra passengers into it, the idea that anyone can take the authority to risk the lives of others is something that is simply not in the scope of operations of anything which is sensitive. So whether it's a transformer which catches fire, sure, accidents do happen and accidents will continue to happen. But what needs to be checked is that, is there a percentage of willful neglect? Is there a percentage or a proportion of managerial ineptitude and control? And the last thing is that in many of these cases, you will find that the lowest form of life in those organizations will be sacked. That's no use because responsibility has to rest at the higher levels, at the higher echelons. Otherwise, you will constantly be having repetitions of this kind wherever in the country it is.
And Nirmal Kaur, that is the reason why we are raising this issue today. And the question we are asking is, do lives of people not really matter?
I think human life is very precious, very sacred. But as a society, we are not very safety oriented. We do not take safety of things very seriously. I mean, even in industrial scenes or anywhere you go, safety is somehow the least of the concerns. People carry on somehow, they want to carry on. 24 cable cars is the ceiling, the cap. You put on 27 to deal with the rush. You're compromising in a big way. And as it is, the ropes were 14-year-old, the audit report has pointed that out. And, where it is spliced, it is, going loose. And how the two cable cars, which are supposed to go parallel and have a wide, wide gap between them, how the coming and going cars collided with each other, even if it is very strong wind or whatever the other reasons are. Those should have been factored in, while designing and running the ropeway. And I would rather say that we should have a mechanism that, and another thing is this is more of an in-house audit. This was some government sponsored, should have an independent agency, that certifies that this system, like as in the case of elevators or lifts, that this is fit to run. And it was not fit to run, and it was still being run, and that too in an external audit capacity. And we have to have very stringent checks and an independent kind of certifying authority, which gives regular maintenance checks. And if that maintenance check lapses, it lapses. Get it renewed, and otherwise don't run the system. It's better than killing people. If it had lapsed, if suppose it is supposed to have a 3-monthly report or a 6-monthly or an annual report, if it has lapsed, it should not be allowed to run even for 1 hour after that. If the period is over, no. I mean, it's better to err on this side than to err on that side and take chances with people's lives, which you did, and which is happening more than once. It keeps happening all the time to us. And of course, the Air Force and the NDRF and others have acted very bravely, ITBP, and they have rescued people. And, those are horrifying things when you see the rotor going over wires, it could get stuck. Anything could have happened. It's only by God's grace that, even this degree of rescue has happened, and very few lives were lost, 2 or 3. And then,
well, absolutely. And the findings of this audit report only tell us that, something like this was avoidable. Mr. Lokesh Jindal, how will you like to respond to the points that have been raised so far in the debate? What's the point of really ordering an audit if nobody is even going to bother to look at the findings of the audit report?
Okay, good evening, everybody. I would like to make certain fact correction over here. The audit was done by Central Institute of Mining and Fuel Research, which functions under CSIR. It's a nodal central government agency, and that has been conducting safety audit from last 4 years. And the report that was titled Evaluation and Advice on the Present Condition of Haulage Rope of Detachable Grip Monocable Passenger Ropeway, it stated on 17th of March, it officially stated that the conditions were satisfactory. And secondly, it noted in its report, there are no issues with rope, there are no issues with pulleys as well. The 24 flaws that you're talking about, over there it's mentioned clearly in the audit reports that they were insignificant. And coming to the second aspect now, the Kolkata-based Damodar Ropeways and Infra Limited, it has stated that it was probably due to slipping of steel rope, for which Hemant Soren has already ordered for registering an FIR, and a 5 lakh rupee compensation is to be provided for the families of 3 victims. And the state will be funding all the treatments of all those who are injured. Now, what I intend to say over here is it's a disaster. What we say, it comes under the category of a disaster, and we saw prompt action taken by District Disaster Management Agency, as has been hailed by Indian Air Force and NDRF. And yes, I agree with all my fellow panelists as well, that in this time of disaster, we must hail all government agencies for coming forward and doing the prompt action. And it also raises one concern that in future, see, there are ropeways incidents in Himachal Pradesh, Jammu, Uttarakhand. So in future, let us come up with some form of a contingency plan, have alternate rescue ropeways installed, and the greater stringencies with respect to the audit mechanism as well. So what I intend to say in all this incident is,
that is why we are having this debate tonight, Lokesh Jindal. Do audits require a tragedy trigger? And what's the point of even ordering an audit if nothing is really going to be done about the findings? Yes. Because here in this case also, after what happened in Deogarh, Centre has asked all the states to audit the ropeway projects that are there. Tuhin Sinha, how will you like to respond?
Well, Heena, the sheer indifference of the Jharkhand state government towards one of the foremost tourist spots in Jharkhand is absolutely appalling. Now, had it not been for the efforts of the NDRF, IAF and ITBP, the casualties would have been much higher. But look at the way the state government has responded to the whole thing. I don't like to interfere. Mr. Jindal, please don't interfere. Please behave yourself.
So please have some courtesy. You're talking on a national TV channel.
No, I mean, Heena, you'll have to get these people out of the show if they don't know how to behave. I don't interfere when other people speak.
Mr. Lokesh Jindal, let him make his point. I will give you time to respond as well. Let's have a civil debate. I give equal time to everyone. So I will come back to you, Mr. Lokesh Jindal, for your response as well. Let him finish his point. Yes, Mr. Tuhin Sinha.
Mr. Nishikant Dubey, the sitting MP from Deogarh, has made some very serious allegations today. He has said that from 2019 onwards, after the expiry of the contract of the previous contractor, the contract was not renewed. Please understand that this ropeway was being co-run between the Jharkhand state government and a local contractor. If the contract was not renewed after 2019, it implies that the whole thing was being run illegally, and that needs to be investigated. I was in Jharkhand just 2 weeks ago for a book launch. A similar incident, even a worse incident, was reported from Sahibganj, where a cargo ship carrying 15 trucks and around 10 smaller boats capsized because of overloading. Please understand that this has become very commonplace in Jharkhand. Incidents of bribery, corruption lead to this. On the day when this incident took place, instead of 24 cars, 27 cars were running on that ropeway. These protocols were being openly flouted. And this is where the role of the state government comes into the picture,
Right.
and that needs to be investigated. Secondly, look at the sheer insensitivity of the CM did not bother to visit the place. The entire rescue operations were being manned and managed entirely by the local MP, and it was a hands-on Home Minister of India who was actually supervising the whole thing. Where was the Chief Minister? And finally, the Congress, Rahul Gandhi, who believes in tragedy tourism, has he even tweeted a condolence message for the family? So the sheer indifference of the state government is very visible and shocking.
Let's now get a response from Lokesh Jindal as well. Then I have another question for Tuhin Sinha. Yes, Lokesh Jindal, please respond.
Let's not distort facts and say lie on a national television. It's not a local vendor. It's Kolkata-based Damodar Ropeways and Infra Limited company, which is also operational in other states. Point number 2, when you're talking about the ropeways, they were 7 years old, not 14 years old. And another point is, when you're talking about the chief minister visiting the site, what do you want? You want to create a further administrative problem. And another aspect is, when you're talking about disaster management, please get your facts correct. It is District Disaster Management Agency which takes the first step, and this is followed by State Disaster Management Agency. Only then NDRF steps in. And it's a coordinated administrative effort. Please do not try to become heroes over here. Please do not try to get the Ukraine thing and political mileage out of it. Enough of
Okay, let me get the
now.
facts for our viewers. Let me get the facts for our viewers. The Jharkhand Tourism Minister, 1 second, gentlemen, 1 second. Both of you, please calm down. 1 second. The Jharkhand Tourism Minister has said on record that lack of maintenance could be the reason behind this particular accident. And he had also said that Damodar Infra was operating with a proper license. Of course, that's something that we will be discussing, we will be highlighting a little later. But before that, Mr. Tuhin Sinha, I had asked you a direct question. Of course, there is political slugfest that's happening. Political blame game is taking place on this particular issue. But my question to you was, do audits require a tragedy trigger? And what happens after audits are ordered? Because here, this might be one single case that we are talking about. I highlighted 2 other examples as well. One from Bengaluru, second one from Gurugram. It's across the country. Do human lives not really matter? Why do we get this standard response every time there is a tragedy? Every time there is a death because of an accident?
I think one should avoid a generalization over here. The Home Secretary has very clearly written to all chief secretaries asking for fresh audit. But in this case where the maintenance of ropeway is entirely upon the state government, it is the state government which is primarily responsible. And like I said, it is not a standalone incident in Jharkhand. If you just, if you may not be aware of it, you can just Google out a larger tragedy which just took place 15 days ago in Sahibganj, where a cargo ship running from Sahibganj to Katihar just subsides because of overloading. So these incidents should not be taken in isolation, at least as far as Jharkhand is concerned. It is a state which is living dangerously thanks to the greed of the local parties ruling over there.
Can I reply?
Now the question, Mr. Lokesh Jindal, is that we are being told that there was supposed to be this regular maintenance, something that Jharkhand Tourism Minister has also accepted. Isn't the state government then responsible?
First of
The
all,
Jharkhand Tourism Minister himself is saying lack of maintenance could be the reason behind this accident. You are dismissing the findings of the audit report. But then what will you say about the statement by the Jharkhand Tourism Minister?
Yes, but the point is the 17th March audit was done by a central agency. It is not done by a state agency. And please get the audit report with yourself.
So if it was done by a central agency, the state is not going to take it seriously? Is that your argument, Mr. Lokesh? So if the audit was conducted by a central agency, so the state is not going to take it seriously?
Nowhere, madam.
It's not going to even bother to look at the findings and do something about them? What kind of an argument is it? Nirmal Kaur also wants to come in.
Madam, the audit report has given a clean sheet for the ropeway project.
Can I respond to this?
Then what about these 24 lapses that we are talking about?
Yes, please read the audit report. They have clearly mentioned that the 24 flaws were
insignificant. I have read the audit report. That is the reason why we are having this debate. You heard my colleagues also who've been tracking the story very, very closely. One second. Nirmal Kaur wants to come in. Lokesh Jindal, 1 second. Nirmal Kaur wants to come in as well.
Yes. The audit report, as I read it in the media, it says that the ropes are 14-year-old and, mechanical fatigue sets in. Metal also gets fatigued. Definitely 14-year-old ropes where, so many, it's such a crucial place, where human lives are dependent on the maintenance of that ropes and, the torque in them. Obviously, the torque somehow, the ropes got loose and two cars collided with each other, the departing and arriving cars, and that led to the whole thing. That means the whole maintenance was sad. The audit report has red flagged a few things. I wish they could have been taken care of. And if nothing else, the ropeway could have been shut down. Like if you can't maintain it, if you don't have a proper maintenance contract, or if you can't even maintain your mechanical systems, it's better not to operate it and have lives lost, And this kind of tourism or whatever, this is fun only so long as it is fun. If it is the audit report is not going to be valued, or if it is not sacred, it is very sacrosanct. Human lives are sacrosanct, and therefore all that is, whatever requires safety of the maintenance of the ropeway, that is sacrosanct and should always be followed, more than anything else, which was not done here.
Heena, can I come in?
Nirmalji,
can I reply?
And Lokesh Jindal, yes, Tuhin wants to make a point, and then Lokesh Jindal. Okay.
I do understand, Heena, sometimes you struggle on your show to get the right guest, but the way the incident is being trivialized by the Congress leader is the reason why Congress is being wiped out of the country. Show some sensitivity. Show some sensitivity. The responsibility of the maintenance over here is...
Please don't make this a propaganda. Enough of propaganda politics.
If the state government
correct.
did not have the basic courtesy to visit the families of the deceased, that shows how irresponsible and how ignorant the ruling party in the Congress is about the problems of the state.
Okay,
the problem is
you made your point. Now, quickly, Lokesh Jindal wants to respond. Then I'll go across to Dilip Cherian as well.
Thank you.
Yes, Lokesh Jindal, quickly make your point. Then Dilip Cherian.
When I'm talking about
Very
Principal
quickly,
Secretary to the Disaster Management, he has Amitabh Kaushal. He has already ordered a technical inquiry. And with respect to the exact cause of the incident, nobody is having any idea. Even the best of the guesses that are being made that it was due to slipping of the steel rope from the shaft. So neither it is the pulley nor it is the ropeway that were the cause of this particular tragedy. What I'm trying to say, it's a disaster. Now you cannot hold a party responsible if there is an earthquake or a flood that comes in. At least have
there
some
were
form of
27 cable cars in this particular ropeway, which was more than what ideally should have been there. Dilip Cherian, I want to give you the last word on the debate, because this is exactly what happens all the time. Every time there is a tragedy, there is politics, audits are ordered, and then people just forget.
I think, Heena, you've pointed out the right thing. And as Nirmalji also pointed out, the first thing is that we don't take human lives seriously enough in India. It doesn't matter which party it is. The accidents have happened in every single state. So let's not have a meh tutu between parties. The second reason is that audits are not taken seriously because as a result of the political slugfest, anyone who takes charge after that will say, oh, this audit was done at this time on the insistence of X or Y, and it gets buried. Audit reports need to be read, they need to be actioned, and they need to be dealt with point by point. The third and last point I'd like to make is that independence of auditors really requires that there are people who are certified to do these things, and it must be public. Why should an audit report be secret? The audit report is affecting the lives of every user of this ropeway. So there is no reason why we have to ferret it out. It should be made public, and the public should know and understand the risk they're taking. If we follow these three aspects of it, treat human life seriously, don't make this a political slugfest, because it isn't about that. Three, treat auditors as independent and give attention to what is actually specified. If you do that, we will save a lot of human lives going forward, especially when we have more ropeways planned across the country.
And like you had said initially as well, that accountability needs to be fixed. If an audit report mentions certain things, then somebody needs to look at those recommendations or the points that are mentioned and ensure that action is taken so that we do not lose any more precious lives anywhere in the country. I appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate on Mirror Now this evening.